Have your colleagues lived up to your expectations over all of these years?
Yes, and more than my expectations in many ways. They've stayed the course, as we said, and that's amazing. Some of them have left to do terrific stuff. It's very nice to have alumni go and change the world from other vantage points. Yes, I think I would say generally it's been terrific. We were set up very consciously, partly by me, as a long-term proposition which would last way beyond the founders. So we had a lot of management systems in place to build the leaders, and so that worked out, I think, very well. We were about 12 years old, 14 years old, when we had our first succession, so that I could still be on the board, but there was a new management. And I remember many times saying to myself, I wouldn't do it that way, but I was very disciplined not to get in the way of the new managers and tried to encourage them to take risks, to make calculations that were good for them and for the organization, for the country. But I did not rule over them. And I was very careful for them to understand that they were the bosses. They had to. That succession has taken place again, which means that we now have third generation, and I hope that the third generation will build the fourth. I think DA is here to stay and will make a very big difference, partly because of that obsession I had to not have a temporary organization that disappears when the founders are no longer here. And I think that obsession must have been problematic for other people sometimes, but it was important. So no, I think I'm very proud of the colleagues and their achievements that we've been able to make. You know, Pat, this organization, a little organization coming out of the blue, has developed major policy initiatives, particularly in shelter, habitat, construction areas, major innovations in technology for construction, not least a new cement, which is probably the first new cement in 200 years. I suspect it's about the fourth or fifth cement in history. I mean, since Babylonian times, there have only been 4 new cements made, and this is the 5th one. And I think that's quite remarkable. We've had a certain amount of support from foundations, from bilateral agencies, from governments. The Swiss government, the British government, the Nordic governments have been really remarkably supportive, partly because they saw that we had a system in place for the long term.
I think it's a little unfortunate that in the last decade or so, there hasn't been that much support for innovation, because if we've been good at one thing, it is that, I think, rewriting or recreating the way in which things can be done, a lot of which, you know, we're still doing in, you know, entrepreneurship, or even the way CSR is understood, or the way in which those kind of projects should be managed, plastics, policy initiatives.
But Pat, innovation is only a subset of the kind of thing we really need to do, which is strengthening the institution's ability to think for itself and grow. When you evaluate your work of the past, it costs money and people and time. When you do a certain amount of planning and exercise, you know, strategic, you need resources. That has not been easy. We've been royally supported for projects. I mean, we must have raised more than $350 million over these years for the work that we do, which is good money. Out of that, the amount that went into innovation and institution building was probably 1/10, 1/8.
Probably even less.
Even less, yeah. And that, I think, was unfortunate because we could have done an enormous amount of institutional model, which would have been a major breakthrough.
And it's become even more difficult to, raise that kind of money now in the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years.
It disappeared.
It's disappeared.
No support for that.